We can't forget the many fine gentlemen who are running for office as well, including former and perhaps future Assembly Representative Joe Plouff from the Menominee area. Joe Plouff, good morning. How are you?
I am so well here in Menominee, Wisconsin, not far from Lake Wissota, where I was knocking on doors yesterday afternoon. And I tell you, Pat, it was pretty windy over there.
Yes, it was. You had to hold on to that literature tight,
Yes,
otherwise
we did.
you were going to be flooding the zone in ways that you didn't intend. But uh, I have to say, and most people do. I loved the door knocking. Now this was like 15 years ago, something like that. Maybe it's a different world out there, but are you still enjoying the door knocking, talking to voters one by one as you campaign for this newly drawn district?
Oh, I really do. I have always enjoyed door knocking. And what it does is it allows not only potential constituents to get an idea of who I might be or other candidates for that matter, but it gives us an idea of what's going on in the district and who it is that we will be representing. And that is so valuable. The stories you hear at the door are so reflective of our whole community. Um, it is, and it's positive. We are very lucky to be living in West Central Wisconsin, and our constituents do know that they want this good life to continue, Pat.
Oh, without a doubt, they do. Let's talk about the district for a moment, because again, we're working under new maps that aren't nearly as gerrymandered as they used to be. But it means folks have really had to get used to, what district they might be in now, which might involve their current legislator, and it might not. And I have to say, it is a little confusing here up in Chippewa Falls or just north of Chippewa Falls, because I'm in a newly drawn assembly district that stretches way up north. It's kind of a beast, and yours is a much more compact. Is that the one that's like the rectangle kind of in the Highway 29 area? How do you describe the district?
It is, and you're exactly right. It is rectangular. It runs from the city of Menominee, the township of Menominee, all the way to the city of Chippewa Falls. And then it takes a right-hand turn. It goes down into the Lake Hallie area, and then a slight little area of the city of Eau Claire near the airport.
Yeah,
And
something that can be driven and walked, much more so than some of these other districts. That as you get into these rural areas, I mean, you're in the car all day if you want to get around those.
exactly. And what I found is I bought myself an e-bike,
Oh,
and I
nice.
tell you, I am doing doors out in the Lake Hallie area, or the later today I'll be out in Red Cedar Township and or the town of Menominee around Cedar Falls, and that e-bike allows me so much more efficiency. I can get from door to door much quicker, and actually, uh, my wife may not like this, but a lot fewer steps I take. So therefore, there's some benefits that I might not be seeing as normally.
Well, it's a it's a balancing act. More doors versus more steps, and right now
Yeah.
you're at the phase where you maybe need more doors. I do recall back in 2010 losing 15 pounds that summer from all of the door knocking that I did. Folks might find this hard to believe. The 15 pounds came back pretty quickly. So yeah, I mean, if you were permanently campaigning, or I don't know, walking for fitness, it might stay that way. Joe, we obviously every candidate has their own particular priorities, platforms, positions. But let's start with the other side of the door. What do you hear? What gets brought up first and foremost for those folks that do answer the door and do want to chat with you?
It's the economy, and it is surprisingly, it's the long-term economy. It's not the short term that a president handles over 4 years, or a governor over 4 years, or even two terms, 8 years for an economy that goes back to former President Trump and into Biden. It's the long-term economy that people are beginning to sense is truly rigged against them. And that is almost an awakening. They're beginning to see that, our union jobs numbers are down to 6%, I believe, in Wisconsin. Whereas It used to be 30. Life was a lot better when people were making a lot more money with benefits, with insurance, and retirement. Today, people are worried about their kids not having a retirement plan in the future. Remember, we in the 1980s we got all involved in this trickle down economics. Well, um, I think people are beginning to sense that they have been trickled down enough.
I think they've been trickled upon, perhaps, is how maybe they feel about this. And we hear this, and it comes up frequently in interviews like these, but it's nice to have it reinforced that people are thinking about, they're thinking about their economic circumstances far more than some of the more divisive issues that
Yeah.
get brought up. And I would imagine for you that includes, the big ones that come up frequently are, affordable childcare, affordable health care, paid family leave. When it comes to affordable health care, that would include, strengthening Badger Care and expanding that. I'm sure there's others there that I've missed, but that's at least the beginning of the short list of issues that it would seem to me people want their legislator to be working on.
Those are all issues that are classical bread and butter type issues that have been discussed over the years, but they're hitting home. I'm finding at the door that many times I find grandparents that have moved to a back or moved into the community basically to support their children's daycare needs.
Oh, sure.
It is huge. I talked to one gentleman, and he has, 3 children, I believe, and one child is $280 a week.
Hmm.
Well, how much of a retirement system can this person put together for his senior years and his spouses combined
Right. Yep.
if you're paying that kind of child care in your 30s?
Exactly.
It doesn't work. It's
Joe
rigged.
Plouff. Joe Plouff is here with us. He's running for state assembly in West Central Wisconsin. We're going to continue that conversation with Joe in just a moment. First, a reminder, wherever you're listening across Wisconsin on this Thursday morning, when you're here, you're up north, live from Lake Wissota on the Civic Media Radio Network. Welcome back to Up North News Radio on this Thursday morning. It's October 3rd, and a reminder that our new political director, Dan Schaefer from the recombobulation area, has put together a voter guide, and you can find that over at civicmedia.us, and that includes a rundown of all 115 legislative races that are going on out there. All of them. Dan Schaefer has that. Read it over at civicmedia.us. Coming up today at noon on the Todd Alba Show, Todd is going to be broadcasting from the Little White Schoolhouse in Ripon, getting set for the appearance by Vice President Kamala Harris and former Congresswoman Liz Cheney, longtime Republican critic of one Donald Trump. And quite a message they'll be sending from the birthplace of the Republican Party today. Liz Cheney, along with Kamala Harris and Todd Alba, will have that as well coming up on his show at noon. Joe Plouff, a state assembly candidate, joins us once again from the Menominee area, where he is a former assembly rep looking to run into a newly drawn seat that's in there. And Joe, there are, again, with 115 of these races, 99 in the Assembly, 16 in the Senate, I believe is how it breaks down. And so you can only so many of them are targeted races, races that could determine if Democrats, after well over a decade, finally can once again take control of the state assembly. Your district appears to be one of them. It's a fairly purple area. Tell us what it is that you need to do and what voters need to hear in order to make the case that the assembly should not be in Republican control anymore after more than a decade.
Well, it's, again, we're back to the whole idea of a rigged economy in a rigged system. The Republicans have gerrymandered themselves into a position, whereas there is no Democratic alternative. There's no opposition. The Republicans do whatever they want to do, and they do it on a sliding scale. An example, remember when Act 10 came to be, Governor Scott Walker and his legislatively or Republican-controlled legislature basically destroyed public unions in the state. And at the time, they said, "Oh no, we're not going to do any more. No, we won't do any more." And within a year, maybe two, they had started attacking and going after the private unions as well through Wisconsin's right to work statutes that they passed. Well, the same thing happens with Medicare and with health care. The GOP legislature, they and the governor did not want to expand the federal government's hand in allowing more Medicaid expansion into the state of Wisconsin. They haven't, we're one of 10 states, I think, now that have not accepted that benefit, federal benefit. And the problem becomes is that fewer and fewer people have the ability to be insured. And that leads in part, not always, but in part to the closure of these two hospitals in our area. And it's not just the hospitals. We have a real problem and we have to shift our thoughts. I lived up in Prairie Farm for quite a while. And what we found up there is all of a sudden the hospitals up in the that northwestern segment were no longer going to provide birthing centers. Then all of a sudden, the birthing centers became the Menominee Hospital. All of a sudden, the Menominee Hospital is no longer providing birthing centers. The birthing centers became Chippewa Falls and Eau Claire. Well, we know what happened last spring.
Mm-hmm.
The rigged system is no longer working. We have to admit it. We have to say something different has to be done. And I'm not so certain that my policies that I'm being attacked on, that I promoted 25 years ago, are all that radical any longer.
Well, that's right. You raise an interesting point that there is a Republican ad that runs and talks about, the state of things now. And as I'm looking at them attacking you, I'm thinking, well, wait, who's been in charge of the legislature for the past, 14 years now? So the attacks seem to ring a little hollow, but as you and I both know, if you put enough money behind the ads, that's the kind of message that's going to stick. But that's why it's worth noting that in the case of these Chippewa Valley hospitals, what is it the legislature is sitting on right now? Is it $15 million, I think, for the hospitals, for Chippewa Valley Healthcare? Along with, go ahead.
It is $15 million. Yeah. And the legislature has held on to that since January. They just won't work with the governor. I would be very interested in knowing what the phone calls were from Representative Moses, who's the chair of the Assembly Health Committee. How many phone calls did he make to the governor's office in that period of time, asking and working with the governor for solutions for those two hospitals? I suspect zero. I suspect a lot of holy pictures were taken at that time. Very little effort to work with one another.
Oh, there was a lot of saying the right words, but in terms of actions, if you actually wanted to show that you gave a rip about the healthcare situation in the Chippewa Valley, you would find a way to make this work. You would try to be essentially, an arbiter between Governor Evers, who wants more flexibility in the use of those dollars, versus the Robin Vos position of, whatever it takes to screw over Tony Evers, even if it means we sit on $15 million that could have gone toward the healthcare there. So for this issue and a host of others, Joe Plouff is running for state assembly. What's the district number?
92.
The 92nd district up there, because I know they move the lines around a bit. So, Joe Plouff, thank you so much for visiting with us about that. We will continue to follow the race. Best of luck. Safe travels on that e-bike now, okay?
Thank you much, Pat, and good luck to you.
All
Go
right,
Bruins.
All right.